You are listening to the USDN on the DSPN.
It's a trap!
What is up, everybody, and welcome to the United States Department of Nerds, where we are for the people, by the people, and of the people. Some heroes inherit power. Some heroes earn it, and some discover it hidden in the attic of their grandparents' home. Tonight, we sit down with writer Paul Eza.
That's right.
Founder of Acorn Comics, to explore the world of the Olympian, a modern story where Greek myth collides with small town life. A mysterious talisman, the power of the gods, and a young man who must decide what kind of hero he's going to be. With the Olympian Issue 2 launching soon on Kickstarter, we're going behind the scenes to explore the mythology, the creative process, and the journey of building a new indie comic universe. The Council of Nerds is now in session. Paul, welcome to the USDN.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. You've been on the slate now for a hot minute, I believe.
Been a while.
We really have. I mean, it's wild to think that I'm booked months in advance right now, and I'm just riding the wave of indie comic goodness. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man, if I could book my day job business out as far as you're booking this show out, then I would be set.
Oh, without a doubt. I am I've already got shows booked in June and a follow-up show from that show booked in September. So it's kind of wild in that I've never thought about this. You know, I used to beg people like, hey, you want to come on? You want to come on? You want to come on? And now it's like, I just kind of sit back and they just kind of like, hey, can I come on your podcast? Yes, let's do it.
Nice.
So it's been great. So Paul,
and well deserved. You're obviously doing something right.
That's all you can hope for at the end of the day, right? Is that you've built a platform, and you're good enough at what you do to get people to either come on the show or come back on the show, because I do get a lot of repeats as well. And I love the repeat customers. So, because by that time, your rapport is established. You can it's like you're talking to your best friend.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, but let's start at the beginning, Paul. When did comics first enter your life?
I'd be lying if I told you I remembered. I remember when I was little, before I could read, or at least before I could read particularly well, my dad would buy comics and we'd sit down and he'd actually read the comics to me. Mm-hmm. And, that was something that we kept doing long after I was able to read at that level, but it was just something that we enjoyed. It was sort of a bonding moment that we had. Yeah. And he would, he would keep reading to me, and I kept sitting there and sitting next to him and listening. So, we enjoyed that. And then, I fell off for a good bit after that stopped. And I didn't really get back into it mostly, I had a little bit. There were a few things I picked up when I was in college and a little bit after college that I would read and enjoyed. But I didn't really get back into it seriously until I met my wife. And she knows more about comics than, probably anyone else I've ever met.
Yeah.
She's working in conventions since she was a teenager. So she knew a lot of the creators at the time and still does. I shouldn't say at the time. But she knew a lot of these people, and that was sort of my reintroduction was, oh, hey, meet my friend who was, some massive writer or artist or something like that. But I got to just, instead of meeting them as like, oh, the people who created the things I read as a child, just got to meet them as my wife's friends. So
yeah, that's kind of cool though.
Eventually it's like, well, I really should read the things that these friends of ours are making. That would only be polite. And it kind of went from there.
That's really cool though. How's it feel though, your wife being cooler than you?
Man, I wouldn't have married her if that was a problem. Like that was,
dude, that's so awesome. Oh yeah, dude, that's amazing. So speaking of amazing, your career path, amazing. We're talking prosecutor, litigator, mediator, comic writer.
Yeah, it's certainly unique. I mean, don't forget, before that, graphic artist, glorified digital librarian. I actually had a full career before I went to law school. It was, law school was where I went when I realized I wasn't happy with my career path and was sort of at a, personal crossroads in my life. And I was like, well, if I'm going to go back to school, now's the time. And so I did. And then the law career just sort of followed from there. I am obviously, still mediating full time. That's still the primary moneymaker over here, at least, on my end of things, not counting my wife, obviously, but there's, so that's still going. But I'm trying to follow in that long line of recovering attorneys who've become successful comic book writers. There's a few of them out there.
Yeah.
Charles Soule, Mark Guggenheim, Marjorie Liu. There's
Charles Soule out there for everybody writes Star Wars, by the way, y'all.
And Mark also writing some Star Wars.
He is. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, like I say, it's a proud tradition of not wanting to be a lawyer anymore and finding something else to do.
It tells you a lot about the career path, right?
It does. In fairness, there, depending on what kind of lawyer you are, obviously, but I tell people all the time, being a lawyer, particularly being a litigator, you have to be able to prepare very uninteresting facts in an interesting way. So in some ways, it does correspond with writing because, while hopefully the subject matter of my comics is a lot more interesting than the typical case I would handle, you still have to figure out an interesting way to arrange it, to present it. And, like I say, with more interesting source material, you get a more interesting story.
So funny story, right? So my daughter, when she was young, she was like, I want to be a lawyer. I'm like, all right, cool, baby. Just so happens I work with a lawyer at my job. And he owes me a favor. So he offered to take you to lunch and kind of just talk to you about being a lawyer. So we go to lunch and he's telling her all about being a lawyer. She's asking questions and she kind of got quiet for a minute and she's thinking. You can tell the gears up there are grinding, right? And I was just like, what's wrong? She's like, yeah, this is the easiest decision I ever had to make, Dad. I was like, well, what's that, baby? I'm going to be a doctor.
Good choice.
She's in pre-med right now, so kudos to her. But
I say that there are a lot of things I like about being a lawyer, and there's a lot of people I know who are really happy with the career.
Yeah.
too many people go into it having seen lawyers on TV and have this, glorified version of it without talking to anyone who's actually done it. And like people ask me, I'll say it's achievable for almost anybody. You don't have to be a genius to be a lawyer. You just have to be willing to work at it. And you also really need to know what you're getting yourself into and what the reality of it is. And if it's not for you, that's okay. But just be aware of what you're doing and why you're doing it, and you should be fine.
It's the time. I don't think people really realize the amount of time you have to invest. And that goes for a lot of things too. Yeah. People think they can just jump into something and they're going to be this great success at it. And I will be the first to tell you, that isn't true, people. Even sitting here behind a microphone, talking to people like Paul, I did a lot of work leading up to this. Hence why we're having a discussion right now about him being a lawyer. You don't get that just by, like, oh, let me look up Acorn Comics. No, you literally, you put in the work. You find out who people are. You research them. You learn them. And then you piece everything together. So there's a lot of time you have to invest into things, no matter what it is. And being a lawyer, no different. People like, oh, we have interns and stuff for this. You are your intern.
Yeah. Sometimes they had lawyers have interns. Sometimes they tell you you're going to have interns, and then you end up doing the intern work because they don't give you interns.
There it is.
And sometimes the interns create more work for you than had you just done it yourself.
Oh, I imagine so. So what was your point where you said, I'm not just going to read comics anymore, I'm actually going to do comics now? So
comic writing, it was kind of my midlife crisis.
You got to have one. That might as well be that one.
As far as midlife crises go, this is probably the best case scenario. But no, I was coming up on my 40th birthday, and had a very good life, a very overall satisfying life, but it was also very busy, and there wasn't a lot that I did just for me, right? And I kind of felt that need to do something just for me. And when I was younger, I used to do like high school, college. Back then, I used to do a lot of different types of creative writing, mostly bad, I'm sure. But not bad, for the.
I was going to say, I read issue 1 of the Olympian, and by darn, it's really good.
I appreciate that. I did not write that in high school, though. So there's been a lot of learning in between. And I started, and I said, I was very much inspired by a lot of the people that we were around from the comics community and from conventions who had become, friends and a more regular part of my life.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, maybe I want to give this a shot. Maybe I want to see if I can also do that. And so I would get up at my normal time, which, we didn't have a kid at the time. So, I'd get up maybe an hour or two before I was supposed to start work and have my breakfast, and then sit down for an hour and a half and just start writing and start putting this together. And I did it without telling literally anybody that I was doing this. And the reason was because I wanted to prove to myself that I could. I wanted to prove to myself that I'd finish the first story arc and make it as good as I could possibly make it on my own before I brought anybody else into it.
Yeah.
So, and that became Heroes and Zeros, the first comic that I released. Of course, once I got to a point where I was good with it, I started talking to artists. I started talking to the editor, Devin R. Scott, who was probably the first person to see the script other than me. I've said before, I credit Devin immensely for not only the editing help he gave me, but for the encouragement to tell me, hey, this doesn't suck. because it's the first time in probably 20 years that I've shown anything I've written to somebody, creatively written.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of fear putting it out there. Because if this is the best I can do and it sucks, then I guess I'm not doing any more of it,
Oh yeah.
And so that came together, and eventually I showed my wife. We had the cover, we had the first 10 pages basically done, and
Mm-hmm.
what was going to be our pitch copy. And I showed her that, and she looks at it and it's like, oh yeah, this is really good. I kind of like it. Who's it's like, is this one that you backed on Kickstarter, or that you're? And I was like, look at the cover again. And she saw my name on it, and she's like, what? But you did this? And so, and it's kind of gone from there. And, we've now gotten, like I say, 2 issues of Heroes and Zeros. The second one is hopefully going to print in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then, since I basically had that story written before we even started putting the art together, I allowed myself to go explore some of these other ideas that I come up with. And the next one I wanted to work on was the Olympian. And so we started moving forward with that one.
So what was that spark that led to finding, or to the founding of Acorn Comics?
So as far as Acorn Comics goes, that's just, I had put together a pitch for Heroes and Zeros, and I wanted to at least put it out there and see if we could get some, backing from a publisher, because, at least theoretically, that makes the whole
Mm-hmm.
finances of making these comics a bit easier. But I also didn't want to wait for permission. And so when I, sent out a few pitch copies, and I wasn't holding my breath, I didn't hear anything back within, a month or two. I was like, you know what, let's just do this ourselves. You can do this now. You can put it on Kickstarter. You can get the funding for, at bare minimum, to print and ship the copies and have some left over, go to shows with. And I said, you know what, let's go ahead and let's do it. And so I wanted to, where Acorn Comics came from is, I think I always like having the little logo in the corner box. And I said, well, what am I going to call it? And our son's nickname he's our Acorn. So that's what it was.
Dude, I like that, dude. Yeah. That's like the most wholesome thing you're going to hear today, folks.
Oh, not that. You're just making me, setting that bar for me. See if I can get over it, huh?
Hey, that's what I try to do here. And you know what? I've learned to set the bar low to begin with. The way you always have a way to get over.
All right.
At least that's what I do for myself too, because I'm like, I'll set the bar here.
Set those expectations
over that one.
Man.
Exactly. That way, when you exceed your expectations, you're like, yeah, my expectation was 2. I did 4.
There you go.
So Acorn's still relatively new. Founded in 2024. What was that mission when you first started this? Was it just that way you could have that publisher stamp up there, or?
That's how it started. And ultimately it's, the baseline is, this is where I'm going to put out my creator owned titles. So now ultimately, if that's all it ever is, then that's great. And I love it. And I'm happy to keep putting out my comics.
I mean, you built a nice team there, so.
Oh, I've been real fortunate. The people I've been able to work with over here, and the people who have, graced me with their talents to help these books come to life. But, if I was going to say, if we're going to grow, if we're going to have room for growth, and what it could become. I kind of want this to be where the big boys look if they're looking for new.
Yeah.
But if they're like, we want to see something fresh, we want to see somebody new that we haven't done a ton with, and really find the next big thing. I'd love it if eventually Acorn Comics is the place where those guys are always solid. Let's look at what they're doing. I bet we're going to find somebody.
Yeah.
And that would be phenomenal. If anyone from big publishers watching, by the way, check out Casey's stuff, check out Dee's stuff, check out our colorists and our letterers, and everybody involved in this is phenomenal.
Yeah, and that link is actually in the description right now, and it'll be in the description as well once it goes live again on the podcast platforms and also the YouTube again. I'll always include all those links. So if people are listening and they want to see it, it'll be right there for them to click and check out.
Awesome.
So your statement about respecting creators and readers is pretty clear on your website. Why was that something you wanted to establish from day one? See, I do my research.
This is kind of where the legal background meets the creative background, or at least one of those places. And I have seen, respect for the readers, I think that's a no-brainer. But respect for the creators is, I've seen enough contracts just from friends who have made comics and have gotten hooked on with, one small publisher or other. And they'll reach out to me like, hey, I'm not really happy with how this is going. Is there anything I can do about this? And to put it bluntly, some of those contracts that these publishers put out are incredibly disrespectful in my mind.
Oh yeah.
But okay, look, if DC or Marvel, or even talking Image or Boom or Dynamite or somebody who's established comes to you and says, hey, we're interested in publishing your comic. Here's what we'll give you, but we want X percentage of this, and this in return.
Mm-hmm.
You got to seriously consider that, because there's a much better chance of that title and that property taking off if it's got the weight of one of the big players behind it, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
But if you're a publisher who I would go into a comic convention and mention your name, and 7 out of 10 people would say, who? You shouldn't be putting those same terms in your contract.
Yeah.
Find something that's going to be mutually beneficial, yeah, but not like complete control over somebody else's IP, or 90% of any multimedia profits, stuff like that you see in some of these.
That's predatory. 90%. Jeez.
I can't say I'm saying that, pulling it out of my career right now. I don't have any of these contracts in front of me, but it was something that I looked at. I was like, that is absolutely shocking to me, that somebody would have the gall, and not even necessarily that somebody would sign it, because especially if you've only done 1 or 2 of these and you're getting a chance to get put in Diamond or Lunar and maybe get into these comic shops. And I apologize, my nose is just really itchy tonight. And I don't know why, but I don't usually scratch my nose that often.
Dude, you're good.
Podcast, it's allergy season, man. But
it's a new season, man. New allergies.
So that's kind of where I was coming from. I'm never gonna do I'm not necessarily gonna go through all the terms of the contracts we have, but
yeah,
I think the way we put our contracts in there, just for the people we're working with, are very fair. And certainly if we ever end up doing something with somebody else's IP that they want to come and publish under our banner, I would
segue.
Yeah, I view it more like I would do something like what I understand Image does, which is here, if I help with marketing, if I help with publishing, like reimburse my costs, maybe a small something
percentage off the top,
small percentage, so that if this hits big, maybe I can stay in business. But if this hits big, you're the one's going to reap the most benefits from it, because that's the way it would be.
I've always heard Image does right by people when it comes to, if they pick up your book, they do right by you.
Yeah, and it's all creator. And look, I don't want to ever be in the position where, something that I co-created even is the 1 in a million indie comics that suddenly gets huge and makes a lot of money. And 20 years from now, people are asking, hey, why is the other co-creator over here running a GoFundMe for their medical bills, where this guy's got a yacht and going to the Bahamas? Like that's not going to be. If any of this blows up, the people that contributed are gonna see the benefits of that.
No, I like it. And you had brought up something just a few seconds ago, and I'm going to lead into it. But many indie creators just launched one book. You launched a whole publishing imprint when you launched Acorn Comics. Was that always the plan?
Nope. So much of this has just been trial and error and flying by the seat of my pants. The reason we ended up doing 2 titles right now, and where we've been going back and forth with it, is partially because Heroes and Zeros is a longer book. It's a double size, 46 pages of main story, and then the Kickstarter editions have the bonus story in them.
Yeah.
And for those, it obviously takes longer to create. And especially since issue 1 was my first issue, I didn't want people to wait 2 years before they heard anything else from me. And so in the meantime, I was able to work with D and get the Olympian started, and that being a shorter, a traditional size, a 22-page comic. We were able to get that out in the meantime, while Casey was also working on the art for issue 2 of Heroes and Zeros. And so we've been able to alternate and keep more of a timeline going, so that we're a little bit more, front of mind for people, and they don't forget about us.
No, that's smart. So you're still fairly new to this. What have you learned about the indie comic space since launching Acorn and also now launching 2 different titles?
So again, I've learned, number one, it's an incredible community. And with very, very few exceptions, it's been, everybody is supportive, and, and people says, like, it's always a struggle when you're doing things on Kickstarter. You got to get backers, you got to get pre-launch followers, you got to get backers who are willing to, back you above the lowest, usually a digital tier. You got to do all these things. But even if somebody can't do that, just sharing your links and liking when you post them on social media and trying to help you get the word out, that in itself is beneficial, because you never know if they're the ones that are going to share it to somebody who's going to share it to somebody who's going to be your next big fan, and who's going to be able to back it at one of the higher levels even. So just spreading the word and just giving words of encouragement when you put stuff out, that's invaluable too.
Oh yeah, dude. I wish I got more of those. It's one of those where, by the time I'm done with the episode, I've got the clips done. I've given the clips over to the person, and then I start sharing them on my social media. Just interact with the shit. I don't ask for much. Give me that heart. Share it with your friends. Just show me you have some type of appreciation for the amount of sheer work that I do for each and every person that comes on this podcast, because it is a lot from start to finish.
Well, yeah, and look, just from my perspective, myself, number one, I appreciate you and everybody who's been willing to give me the space to come on and talk about these projects.
They're afraid of getting sued.
Who's getting sued now?
I said they're afraid of being sued.
But
it's a horrible joke.
Number one, it would be rude not to help spread the word if I'm coming on and you're doing the work and help spread the word.
No, dude, I seen you were sharing it just before we went live, and I was just like, hell yeah, I wish everybody did that, because I don't always have the time for that.
And it doesn't do me any good if I'm coming on here and nobody in my audience knows about it.
Mm-hmm.
What? Because look,
You'd be surprised.
I don't have the biggest social media followings. I'm terrible at social media. I'm not in my 20s. I don't know how to do this stuff, but I try. I do my best. Mm-hmm. And, but it's not like even, not even half of the backers or the followers I have on different platforms back the campaigns. So let's, if maybe they've heard me talk for years and for a couple of years now on doing this, mm-hmm. Maybe, they're like, yeah, maybe I will, see what this is all about. Maybe I will come in and watch this and do that. I got to share, because every share is a possibility of getting a new reader, a new fan.
Exactly. I always see it as a mutually beneficial thing anytime, people are on. And I'm like, don't let it be that one-way street where only one person is doing things, right?
No,
and because you never know, like, I always see it as my followers are potentially your followers, and in the reverse, right?
Exactly.
And I love that. I wish I could tell all my followers, like, hey, go follow Acorn Comics. They're great. I love what he's doing over there. And I wouldn't be lying about it. I really do like what you're doing over there. And having gotten to just read the Olympian, I always try to read. If somebody sends me the assets, I'm going to read it the day prior. I read Olympian #1 yesterday, and I read the part 2 teaser that you sent over as well. And I love the first one. The freaking talking squirrel, y'all. There is a talking squirrel. I'm just saying, what's not to love about a talking squirrel? Granted, he used to be a wolf, okay?
Right.
He used to be a wolf, but now he's a talking squirrel, which, in my opinion, is cuter, okay?
I'm glad you picked up on that, because that is, like I said, I'm no mythology expert. I did some research for these characters, but I am not pretending that I'm going to be like fast and true to any particular mythology here. But I do try, and like with Miko the squirrel, when I looked up that particular legend, it's like, it used to be, there's this mischievous character, used to be a wolf and then got changed into a squirrel. And that's why, and so I kind of put that in there as a throwaway line in that issue. And it's nice to see somebody pick up on that, because it is really,
dude,
an interesting story.
It really is. And it was so fun to see it. He's like, but what do I know? I used to be a wolf. And I'm like, but also, if that doesn't sell you if I can't sell you with the talking squirrel, there's a damn minotaur, okay? A freaking minotaur. How many comic books have a minotaur? I can name one, maybe two.
Yeah, and it's they've been known to show up in Wonder Woman occasionally,
and a lot of Frank Frazetta's older work, but. And that's all I can think of off the top of my head.
Right, but I was like, what? We're dealing with Greek mythology here. Why not? And that's the beauty of comics. Like, I can think of the most ridiculous thing to do.
Oh yeah.
And this particular medium, you can do it.
Oh yeah, and that's what's great, right?
Except there was one scene, and I'm not going to reveal it because it gives away more than the teaser did, and I did publish a more limited version of the preview on comics.one. But Dee did kind of scold me for one of the scenes because it was a little bit more detailed than by necessity. It had to be more detailed. And I was like, don't worry, we're not going to be doing much there. And her response was just, my wrist thanks you.
Yeah.
All right.
No,
but
hey, anytime your artist goes like, hey, I'm not getting too much of this, am I?
Yeah, it's but I mean, just like everything else she's done, she absolutely nailed that scene when she sent me the art. It was perfect.
So, and we I've been segueing into the Olympian now, but tell people on the Olympian, what is your elevator pitch for it? Because I mean, I just did mine. Talking Squirrel, Minotaur. I don't think you really need to say too much more.
Right. So the way I've been pitching it, at least at cons, is this is a comic for fans of, it's kind of like Percy Jackson meets Ben 10.
Ooh, yeah.
With
I like that.
With also a very heavy influence from the show Troll Hunters.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've ever watched that. I'm surprised by how many people I know haven't, because usually, my nerds have a very similar, watch history to me. But if you haven't, Troll Hunters on Netflix, it's freaking amazing. And it was one that I didn't realize had influenced this story as much as it had until I went back and watched it after I had written The Olympian.
Yeah.
As I'm watching Troll Hunters, like, oh yeah, there's a very similar vibe here. Okay, cool. Cool.
No, so it's cool, right? And so this story follows Vasilis Meyer, who is just a normal dude who discovers the talisman in his grandparents' home. But this talisman basically chose him to become basically the bearer of the powers of the Greek gods. They all endued themselves into this talisman because they knew it would be needed someday. Where did that concept come from? Because it's such a cool and unique concept. And this thing is just chilling in his pawpaw stuff up in the attic.
Right. So, just kind of take us, my creative process, which I think is the creative process that all people follow, is, I have some weird idea and think of how I can build a story around it. And the real seed of an idea for this one came from something my wife said to me years ago when we were dating that she never even remembered saying to me, but that kind of stuck with me because her family is Greek or Greek descent, very much like Vasilis's family and she's like, when I was a kid and we'd go anywhere on vacation and they'd have all those souvenirs with people's names on it, I would never see my name on anything. So it was always a thrill for me to see my name on something. And our son, Vasilis, I was like, well, he's going to have that same issue. I should write a comic with him as the name character. So I'm like, okay, where would that be? All right, well, obviously it should have some kind of, be at least a partially Greek family. So I kind of set it up to mirror our own family as far as, mom's That's Greek, cool. Dad's not Greek. And I was like, okay, so it's very much a free association thing at this point. I was like, okay, so Greek, where's the setting? Where's the setting going to be? And I remember that this town in New Hampshire that I grew up in had a surprisingly large Greek population.
Yeah.
And in fact, the pizza place we would all go to after school was owned by a Greek family. So that's where the pizza restaurant came from. That's where the town came from. And then everything else is like, okay, so, Greek mythology, what are we going to do for powers? And then I kind of got to the Olympian gods and wouldn't it be kind of cool if you could kind of tap into each of them when needed, and everything else just kind of went from there.
Yeah. So Greek mythologies inspired countless stories. What will set this one apart from all the others?
So the Greek mythology in this is not the star. It's like I said, I'm not trying to, stick too closely to any particular myth. It's just like any mythology. I think there's probably variations of it anyway. So whichever version of it you do, you're going to get something wrong in somebody's eyes. So I'm trying to stick to the kind of high level basics of it. As what the gods do and what their powers are and abilities are. And the star of this is really, it's really the dynamics. It's really the relationship. And the squirrel. And the talking squirrel. Yeah, I mean, look, he's Miko is really he really is quite a big part of the story and will be going forward.
So you and Squirrel Girl had this conversation prior to introducing a squirrel, right? I don't want you getting in trouble with her.
Oh, no. Are you talking about actual Squirrel Girl or my wife?
I don't know the relation between those two, but please continue. I'm interested.
For years, she's been known as the convention squirrel.
Oh, okay.
And actually has a piece of art from Art Balthazar that he gave her at a convention years ago with like a little squirrel wearing a headset.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, and she's a big squirrel fan. She likes squirrels quite a bit. So I think I surprised her with that because I just wanted to kind of see her reaction to me putting a squirrel in this one when I had not in Heroes and Zeros.
Yeah, no, that's so cool though that you've gotten to give your main character your son's name, and B, just have that cool little reference there for your wife.
So yeah, I mean, look, because I'm the writer, so why not?
Hey, it's indie comics, right? You can do what you want.
As long as the story still holds up, I don't see a problem with it. And I think, like, to be a little less modest than I think the story holds up. I'm actually really proud of what we're doing with this, and I think, like I say, we finally get the first glimpse of the cost. I broke that rule in the first one. There was no costume, no superhero costume at all in issue 1. And we're finally getting the first glimpse of the costume in issue 2, which I've teased it. It's in some of the promotional stuff we've put out there.
I used it. I had to. That cover is so clean.
Oh, that D's cover on that, with Ibrahim's colors on that came out magnificent. Just wait until we drop the variant that we just got. So I that's how I like to do my hype videos. As I when I get a chance to do them, I won't always get a chance to do them, but here lately I've been spreading stuff out a little bit more to where I can do those types of videos. And there's nothing better than using the covers for those types of videos. And that cover, that cover's amazing. It's going to, like, if any shop put this in stock, this is going to scream to you off the shelves.
It really would.
It's, I'm real excited for, once I finally get these in my hands and I can bring them to conventions, just seeing how much more attention they can bring in. Like I said, not to say that any of the other covers, like I love all the covers we've gotten. And, I always believe, like, when you're doing these comics, especially if you're doing variants, the main cover, number one, unless you're a series artist, doesn't want to do it, should be the series artist. And number two, should have a lot of, some storytelling elements in it.
Yeah.
And I think all these covers that we've had for both of these titles do that. The variant covers more can tend more towards being, pretty pinups and that, as opposed to anything else. You got a little bit more leeway, I think, with those. But I've always liked the covers that really have a lot of, little hidden elements of the story in them.
Yeah.
That you can keep looking at before and after you read. And after you read, it means more to you than before you did.
So that's one of those covers where I would have out. Like right now, my I'm a mess. I'm redoing things. But that's definitely one of those covers where once I have my full railing put up around the office here to just display books, that's one that would be up there. Like it's that nice. Like definitely.
It came out great. Like I say, I've been so fortunate to work with some of these people I've gotten to work with over the last few years. And they've just made this whole thing so much more fulfilling for me.
It's amazing how that works, right? When you get to pick and choose your coworkers.
I really love this, the collaboration and the whole process of getting this stuff. There's no better feeling than, you suddenly get a notification on your email and you open it up and here is a page that up until that point had only been in my imagination.
Yeah. No, that covers the money. So Vasilis is someone who is very reluctant to want to take on this responsibility, and the talisman has chosen him. He's got Miko, he's got the Minotaur, both like, dude, you're it. Sorry, dude, but you've been chosen. So he's very reluctant to become this hero. Are we going to learn in issue 2, why he actually did kind of decide to just pick up that mantle and be the hero?
I think we're going to get more of an inkling of that. Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be a aha moment per se.
Yeah.
But, it's ultimately going to come down to just his character and his choice of, because he's a small town guy and he likes his life. And if he's going to do this, how he's going to do it has the potential to really upend his life. And that's a big choice to make. So it's not something that he's obviously going to come to a decision one way or the other quickly. He still has, as we come into issue 2, he still has a lot to learn about what the talisman is and what's happening. Because, at the end of issue 1, we're left with, he's just sort of, triggered it a few times by accident.
Yeah.
And all he knows is that by holding this thing that was as far as he knows, a souvenir his grandparents brought back from their honeymoon in Greece, suddenly he's doing fantastic things that he didn't think he could do. So yeah, he's going to learn a lot more about the talisman, about its history, and he's got a real tough choice to make by the end of issue 2.
It's not bad for a small town guy who just wants to sit at home and chill with his ferret and hang out with his friends on the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad life, man. You got a job, you got good friends, you got a ferret. It's
now you got a talking squirrel and a minotaur. Life, what could be better, right?
I don't know. I mean, like I say, you saw the Minotaur at the end of issue 1. That's not necessarily a friendly relationship.
He is a intimidating figure. I will give it that, and he's just so well done too. And we're going to talk about D and everybody here in a little bit, but let's talk about issue 1 of your Kickstarter. Fund it, 48 hours. What was that moment like for you as a creator?
Relief. Oh, yeah. These Kickstarters, they are stressful. If you want to know why so many creators, myself included, are so passionate and frankly annoying about getting pre-launch followers on these campaigns, it's because it is so nerve-wracking to hit that launch button and then a week later, you're like, you're maybe 25% of the way or 20% of the way. And halfway into the campaign, you're maybe coming somewhere close to halfway. And you know that most of the support you get is typically at the front, at the beginning.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, now I got to keep just being out here and being in people's faces and drumming up as much support as I can get. Otherwise, we might not hit this goal.
It's wild. I know some people see it as an annoyance. I love seeing the passion that independent creators bring to their stuff. And that's what I see it as. And I guess it's just me being like having worked with the industry now for a little over a year and doing this type of stuff. But I love it, man. It's infectious. And it just kind of makes you want to be like, hey, dude, what do you need, man?
When I say annoying, I think that's a projection, because we all feel like we're being annoying by posting about it, stop all the time. And I've never actually had somebody say, this is really annoying. Could you please stop? Like most people react like you do. Like, you never know who's going to see it. You never know who the algorithm is going to show it to. If you post 5 times a day, each person might see one of them.
Yep.
You just never know. So it's not that annoying in reality. You just feel like you're being annoying.
Oh, I'm sure. And it's what I always tell people is like, when the podcast ends, my support for the project doesn't end with the podcast. I still I follow you on Instagram. So if I see it, like your post pop up on Instagram for the Kickstarter, I'm sharing the Kickstarter, I'm doing all those things to follow through on your appearance here on the podcast, because especially when you're an infectious person, when it comes to your passion for the project, it carries over to me and subsequently carries over to other people as well. And it's hard. Like some people, I've had some on the podcast where I was just like, I felt so unenthusiastic about their project after the fact that I just didn't care.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
It's one of those where like, if they asked to come back and be like, no, I can't do it.
Man, sorry.
And it's not that they create bad stuff. The stuff they create is good.
Sure.
But they lack that passion and that enthusiasm for what it is they do. It's there. It's just they don't know how to project it outward.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I get that too, because like I'm not the most naturally charismatic person. Like I can gear up for something like this, and I am excited to talk about this. But I'm like a lot of writers. I'm very introverted in general, and
we were just talking. I told you how introverted I am.
Yeah, and like it's great to talk to people, and I do enjoy it. I legitimately do enjoy it, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't take a lot out of you on the back end. And so it's something that you really got to gear up for. And like I say, a lot of people who are creative are not like creativity and public speaking and marketing smarts are all very different things and very different skill sets. And not a lot of people have all of them or even 2 of them in some cases. I mean, I'm not a natural public speaker. I've had to work on this over the last, 17, 20 years since I started law school.
That's what this is. This is me briefing and standing in front of people talking and actually making all those classes I did take in college to be useful now, in writing this stuff and getting, the way I approach things, the research I do, like I'm constantly evolving, like even the way I do my social media, I'm always going back out there and seeing what other people are doing. Although I do, first, I take it back to a certain step where I still need to get certain points across, right? Like the show is going to be at this time on this day, follow this person, boom, because I do as much as I can possible to make everything I do at the end of the day when somebody's coming on the show about that person. I can sit here and scream at the top of my lungs all day, say, "Hey, follow me, do this, share this," but is that what I do though? But what I do is people and marketing people and spotlighting people and their stories and their books. So I have to kind of take that step back and go, all right, it's about the person. I'm going to push the person. I'm going to market the person. And then on the backside of it, I get my return when those people are spotlighted. Their followers come over, hopefully, and follow me because, hey, I like what this guy does. I've seen how he did with Paul. I want in on that too. I want to see what he does for other people as well. And you'll notice that I do everything the same way for everybody.
Well, and that's fantastic, because that's also like partially that's how I've found, other things to watch and listen to. Like if I've even been on a show or talked to people online or seen them cover somebody that I'm friends with.
Yeah.
Oh man, hey, I'll go check out their show. And if I like what they're doing, then there it is. I'm following, I'm supporting.
I love word of mouth. Word of mouth is so great. I get so many people coming over from word of mouth. What's his name? Who was just on the podcast was word of mouth from another guy who was a word of mouth from another guy. And now I'm 3 interviews deep from word of mouth. And I love that kind of stuff. Like, oh yeah, this one person said that you were great at this and to come on your show and, push the book. I was like, dude, that's so cool. It means I ain't got to do nothing from a advertising perspective as far as trying to get people on the podcast, because they're just showing up now. And it's great. It's great. I love that. Because that's really the hardest part about this job is trying to get people to come on the podcast. And once that part of the job is gone, I can then focus on what really matters, which to me is the person.
Well, that's fantastic, though, and I say it's much appreciated, because
dude, I love this. This is my wheelhouse. I love it.
From me, and I feel confident speaking on behalf of literally every other indie creator out there. We all appreciate indie focused media because it's so hard to get your.
There's not a
a
lot out there.
I've said this so many times. There is an audience. There is a big audience for indie comics. The problem is for each creator, since we're all kind of scattered all around, to find their audience, and and to be able to have kind of a hub of a handful of places you can go that are consistent spotlighting this.
And that's what I'm trying my best to make this is that central hub. That's why I have the Facebook group that you can join, and you can literally say, hey, my Kickstarter's launching on this day. You can share it on that group. And that's what I'm trying to evolve this into at the end of the day is I want to be the media hub for indie comics. You got a Kickstarter going, cool. You can come share that over here with my group. If you got something else going on, like, hey, I hit this milestone today. Dude, I want to know about your milestone you hit today. And I love that kind of stuff. And I continuously want to make the USDN now that media hub. Or if you just want to talk about a movie you just seen over the weekend, please, let's talk about it, and that's what I love about having that group there is we call it the fan page, and it will always be a fan page, but I want it to be a media hub for others to come in. They can share their work with everybody. Like, hey, check out what the pages on my new comic book. And hopefully that leads to, you get more backers as well. And then, of course, there's the podcast page, which is where I do all my advertisements and stuff like that for this. And I also share it to like 15 different groups at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm all over the place, like, and you don't realize I have to do 2 different posts every time because they will only let you post to 9 groups. So I then have to go in, recreate that same post. Thankfully, I do all my posts and I can just copy and paste it right back.
Right.
So it's not that I'm not doing a lot of work in terms of that, but it is remembering, okay, which 9 did I just do to make sure I don't overlap and piss off the administrators of that group or the moderators of that group, because I've done that more than once, I'm sure.
I'm sure. Yeah, that seems like an easy mistake to make.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I probably do it once a week. Thankfully, I haven't got any nasty grams going, hey, dude, what the hell are you doing? So thankfully, I haven't gotten none of that. So I must be doing something okay. So
hey, clearly, yeah.
But so let's talk about issue 2, man. I've gotten to read the little spoiler you got in there. What more can we expect in that second issue? We're going to get to see some expansion of the Greek mythology. I hope there's more squirrel and more minotaur, personally.
So definitely going to be some more squirrels, some more minotaur, and again more of the dynamics with the family and friends, which is
he's got such a great dynamic there too. And that's another thing I loved about this story. He's got such a fantastic friend group. His grandma, his mom and dad, they all seem like there's such a good dynamic there. Even though he's still kind of got that normal, like early 20s angst, like, I don't want to go to Meemaw's house. Come on.
Right. Well, yeah. Like, I mean, that's kind of, the family's just going to do the same thing the family always does.
Yeah.
And, it starts with, his grandfather had passed and in issue 1. So it's like, yeah, everyone grieves their own way. And for him, even though he knows his family wants him there, it's a little much for him. So he'd rather be around his friends and maybe try and think about something else. So that's, but he also knows that, his Yaya needs his help and needs him to come over and do some of this. And so that's why he ends up doing it, because he's a good kid. He's ultimately a good kid. And even though
he's gone and Meemaw, you don't know how much time you're going to get with Meemaw. So go see your Meemaws, people, is what I'm saying.
If you're, and if they need something, you help your family, even if it annoys you a little bit. And that's, so he comes through and he goes and unwinds with his friends. But it really is, I think the mixing of the family dynamics and the friendship dynamics and the mythology and the adventure and all that put together. And we're taking another step in that direction. He's going to have a lot more, like I said, you're going to see the costume, you're going to see the powers a little bit more developed in this. And you're going to see he has a big decision to make at the end of issue 2. And you're going to get to see what that decision is. And are
we going to start to see some enemies or threats start to emerge in episode or issue 2?
Right. And so you are going to see there's going to be dealing with what's in front of him, obviously, and then dealing with and then a bit more of a hint at what's coming in issue 3.
Okay.
As opposed to a true emergence of it. But
okay.
You see
you still build to it.
I think I can give this little clue, and we've already seen it a little bit with Miko. So Miko, the squirrel, comes from Native American lore, whereas obviously the talisman comes from Greek mythology.
Yeah.
What does that tell us? That tells us that multiple mythologies and lores exist, and in this world were real. So I'll leave that little teaser out there as far as what might be coming from issue 3, and through the rest of the arc.
Yeah, I like it. So how far out is the Olympian planned? Are we looking at like a 6-issue series here, or are we looking at like
we're planning
arc of 6 and an arc of 6?
Yeah, we're planning for a 5-issue arc.
Okay.
With all these, with both of these stories that I've done, I kind of wanted to break it up in a way that if a publisher with funding came calling, it would be very easy to put it into an existing framework and sell it that way. But also, easier to break down and make this. And and get it out to the fans that we have that are supporting us from the ground floor. So I wanted to keep it manageable. 5 issues. That'll still end up being over 100 pages of story, and with room to grow and go in many different directions after that, if the support's there for it. And like I say, and that's the same with the Olympian and with our other stories too. Like, I always want to leave the door open for something additional in that universe if we decide that we have stories to tell. But I also want to wrap up the story that we're telling in a satisfying way.
Yeah.
So that we can, so people feel like they're not on the hook.
You got it.
Yeah.
Like they got their whole story in that in case, And 5 issues is a lot of pages when you sit down and think about it. And I like to get a full story and then an arc within 6. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
To me, that's just I call it standard comic book, but at the same time, if you can't get a good arc out in 6 issues, what are you doing?
Right. I feel like you with few exceptions, at that point you're probably just dragging it out because maybe you don't know where you're going with it.
Yeah, and I've seen stories like that as well, and I think Marvel's notorious for that. So,
well, and you can't look if you're going to tell a good story, especially in the indie format, when you're doing it in this way. Like, I feel like going into it, you've got to know where that story's going. You've got to have
the backers have to have an idea too. Like, they have to know going in if they're going to support you and become a fan. They got to know. They really do. Otherwise, that support's going to be like dried up.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, so we're going to have 5 issues of the Olympian, and like I say, not to say we won't have more stories after that, but we're going with the original 5, and then Heroes and Zeros is going to be a 3-issue arc, but it's the 3 double issues. So we're working on that one, and we've got our plans. I already had our initial planning meetings with Casey on that one to for timelines and everything, but we've got everything ready, and we're laser focused now on these 2 stories. We're going to get these 2 arcs out, and just like every other writer out there, I've got like 10 other ideas that I could pursue.
Yeah,
depending on who I get to work with me and what seems to be appealing and like the best bet to really put out the next one.
Oh yeah. So let's talk about the Kickstarter coming up. When can people expect to see the next Kickstarter for the Olympian issue 2?
So we are looking to launch, barring any hiccups, on April 10th.
Okay, so not that far away.
So
a little less than a month.
Not too far away. Yeah.
Do you have the pre-launch yet?
Yeah, pre-launch is up. It's olympiancomic.com.
Okay, if you want to send me that, I will include that as well in the social media stuff.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I've done that on purpose. I try to get it so that we're I try and get it so that I've got an easy to remember and easy to share website rather than the kickstarter.com/ that nobody can ever remember that, but Olympian Comic, you can probably remember that one.
I know. That's why I asked to send it, because I will forget. But if you send it to me, that's the thing. If you send it to me, then I can add it to what I already have over here. And it makes it easier for me on the backside too. When I go to make this into a YouTube description, it's easier just for me to pull it over and do it.
I didn't mean you personally. I'm that more general.
Yeah, no. I like to get everything out as humanly possible for the person, especially if it's the Kickstarter pre-launch.
No, and
I know how much that pre-launch means to people.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I tell people all the time, look, if you think there's anything at all interesting about this, please follow the pre-launch, because you're not locked in. You don't even have to back it when it launches if you decide later you don't want to. But having those higher pre-launch numbers helps us when we launch. And I've never conclusively confirmed this, but I am fairly well convinced that does play into Kickstarter's algorithm of what to promote and support. So,
there's that, and then there's backer kit as well, which is a secondary thing that will do all that stuff for you, which is an additional amount of money you have to give to this, and they push that Kickstarter for you. And there's nothing wrong with that. I know people who have done it and they love it, and cool. However, if I, as Snuffy, can get this in front of my social media eyes as well, then that's one more way of pushing that. And the more pre-launch you have, and the algorithm does in fact for Kickstarter, because you have to look at Kickstarter as another social media, right? Even though that's how you're funding your book, is it will make it more readily available. So when you go to Kickstarter, comic books, it kind of like they're just all kind of jumbled in there, and you can see them.
Right.
But if you're doing well on your pre-launch, then when you go to launch, it's going to be more visibility because it's going to be toward the front of the pack. So.
Right. Yeah. So, and that's really it. And that's just another way to support indie creators that are doing the crowdfunding is give them a follow on the pre-launch page.
They're free.
It really does help. And that part at least is no financial commitment whatsoever. Yep. You can decide later if you really want to back it or not.
Likes and follows are free.
Yeah, absolutely.
So crowdfunding's become one of the biggest tools for indie comics. What have you learned in your years, or a few short years, of running Kickstarters? Because it's no easy task.
It's what I've learned is just keep trying new stuff. Because I don't think I have any kind of magic formula.
There's not one.
I'll keep trying new stuff. I'll keep putting out different options, different tiers, try and get in front of different audiences, come on new podcasts. Thank you.
I love having people on. I love talking Kickstarters. I love launching Kickstarters. It's just so fun to do.
And with Kickstarter, and like, there's no whatever kind of tier or add-on or thing that you think people might be interested in, there's no harm in ever putting it out there. Like,
and that's literally the next question. When you go to launch this, what do you have anything special planned, or are you just doing like the books? What's the plan for Olympian #2?
So we're going to have a tier for obviously for the digital, for the physical copy for the variant cover. I usually do a version where you can get all covers for people who want that. You'll be able to get add-on issue 1 if you didn't get a copy of issue 1 before and you want a copy now. But we're also going to have a couple so we did a coin in the first one that was a big hit. That was a coin version of the talisman.
Oh, that'd be really dope.
And that was a really big hit. And so we're doing another coin this time around with Asterion, with the Minotaur on it.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And so hopefully that'll be a big hit again. We're doing t-shirts this time. And so we've got 2 different designs on the t-shirts that people can order. We have I think we've got a couple of spots for advertisers in the back of the issue, half-page ads if you want. And one thing I put out for the last campaign for Heroes and Zeros that I think is going to be a mainstay is going to be the patron tier, which is obviously a much higher price point. And I don't expect that most people are going to look at that and say that's for me, but for somebody who is a repeat backer who backs most of our campaigns, or who just is very generous and wants to help us out, it's that higher price point. But I said, okay, for the last campaign, you're going to get everything that we publish between now and 2030. plus any Kickstarter stretch goals. Now, that's not
honestly, that's a pretty good deal.
Now, that's not a guarantee about what we will publish or when we'll publish it.
Yeah.
We don't make any promises about that. But I think we've got a fairly consistent record. And now that we're focusing only on these 2 titles, and, we all committed to getting these 2 story arcs out at minimum, like that's really like, you can certainly count on that happening within the next few years, and probably more. Most likely more, unless things go horribly wrong. So again, not going to be for everybody, but we're going to have that patron tier for anybody who really feels like throwing that extra support our way. And we did get one backer at that tier in the last campaign. So shout out to Brian. Thank you, Brian. Way
to go, Brian.
And part of that also a special thank you in the back of that issue that you you joined for that tier, and and a few other cool things. And for anybody who is a paid subscriber to our newsletter, you're going to have tiers available with a discounted tier on the digital and free shipping on several of the physical tiers. So if you're willing to throw a few bucks a month our way on the newsletter, we'll get you back on the shipping on that. Plus, you get other extras through the newsletter. You get previews of the art that other people aren't getting, or at least before other people are getting it. And some other, I again, kind of by the seat of my pants with this, but we're trying to come up with cool stuff every month to give to our newsletter subscribers.
No, that's really cool. And I always like having my name in the back of the book, or having that as an option when it's affordable, because some people price it like ridiculous. I'm like, dude, you're just printing a page with names in the back. Why is this going to cost me 25 or 30 bucks? That's ridiculous. And that's not a knock on anybody, but I do like it when it's like in that $12 to $15 range. That way I can go, hey, let me go ahead and slap the podcast name in the back of this book. That way when people get to the back and they see that podcast name, I can be like, free advertisement. Well, not free, but cheap advertisement than what I would normally pay if I was going to advertise through like Google or something like that. So.
Right.
But let's talk about the future, man. What does the future have for Acorn Comics? You've got Heroes and Zeros, the Olympian, and I believe Intrusion.
So the Intrusion was just a short that I did. That was one that I'd been working on, no real dialogue or anything. And I took some time to just put together this little 3-page script. And there was one artist I've been following for years who just has a very distinct style, and I couldn't really imagine it being drawn by anybody else. And that's an artist by the name of Lane Lloyd, who is out there and does, and you'll see Lane pop up on some projects here and there and doing a lot of cover work. But they do, again, very distinct and unique style. And I was like, okay, I just got to get Lane to work with me on this one, because I think it'll come out pretty cool. And, it's like I say, it's a little 3-page horror short that I think came out really cool, black and white. And it was just a fun thing to do. Other than that, I've got, like I say, a few other projects, nothing that's with most of them, I've got about 10 pages of script done, and then an outline, because that's how I proved to myself that I've got a viable idea. Because I start writing it, and then if it feels good and I feel like I've got a good grasp of the world and the characters, then I'll take it from there. But I'm not going to focus on any of those until I get these 2 done and out in the world.
I like it. What does the next 5 years look like?
I say hopefully getting these 2 arcs done, and then debuting a few other things, and maybe some continued stories from the Olympian and Heroes and Zeros.
You know, like I definitely really, I haven't read Heroes and Zeros. That wasn't in the plans for this show, but it's one of those where if it's as good as the Olympian, I definitely want to go back, and hopefully with the Kickstarter that will be available, because I definitely want to read that now too, because it really is such a good series, and the Olympian is fun, and I can't wait to actually for this to kick off and launch. That way I can get my hands on it. But why don't you go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you?
So you can get, we have our website, acorncomics.com. You can get, back copies of anything we've done. Right now, I think all I've got in stock at the moment is the variant covers still.
Okay.
But that's not really a consolation prize. We got Heroes and Zeros 1. We got variant covers by D. Fish and Tom Rainey. Salome Luce Antoinette and Walter Giovanni on the Olympian. All the covers were brilliant in my mind. We've got some of the prints, some of the other merchandise we've got, that we put through the Kickstarter. The coins are up there on the website. We're going to have some more once we get the rewards shipped for Heroes and Zeros 2, which we should be shipping very shortly. Probably by the end of April, they should all be in the mail. And once those are out to the backers, then they'll go up on the website as well. And we've got a pre-order slot for Heroes and Zeros 2 up on the website as well.
Nice.
Social media. You can also sign up for the newsletter there. That's just the easiest way to tell people to get on the newsletter, as opposed to trying to figure out what the actual website address is. I'm on Blue Sky, Threads, Facebook, Instagram, under Acorn Comics. In most cases, the handle on Blue Sky is EZAESQ, like my last name, lawyer. I got the handle. I wasn't sure if I was going to be using it for my legal stuff or for my comic stuff, and it's definitely mostly towards the comic side. But the headline is still Acorn Comics. So if you see me there, that's me.
And you're on YouTube as well.
I am, although I don't really do much with it. That's really just a place for me to put the trailers when I have a trailer for the comics that's coming out, and occasionally a little promo video that when my wife dresses like an axolotl, which got by far the most views of anything I've ever put on YouTube.
Oh, of course. But I don't want you to get in trouble with your wife. So everyone, that brings us to the end of another episode of the USDN Podcast. Huge thank you to Paul for joining us and giving us behind the scenes look at the Olympian and the world he's building through Acorn Comics. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you check out the Olympian Issue 2, April 10th, when it launches on Kickstarter. And be sure to follow Paul and Acorn Comics across social media to stay updated on everything that they have coming up next. And of course, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe, follow, and share the show so we can keep bringing you more conversations with the creators shaping the future of indie comics. Until next time, the Council of Nerds is adjourned. This has been the USDN Podcast, where indie comics come to life. Y'all be safe out there.
It's a trap!